Yeah.
Hola!
Hello. It is a Tuesday at 7:30 Eastern time, so it is time for us to return to the Purple Planet. And as you notice, there's more than just two of us smiley faces here tonight, because in addition to the Purple Planet Papa, who's somewhere over around here, the Mr. Harley Stroh, we are joined by Mr. Terry Olson, who
Hello,
is
everybody.
joining us on this expedition into the Purple Planet, where we will be doing a deep dive into some of the adventures which have been set on the Purple Planet over the years, going back at Terry, as you mentioned, almost a decade now at this point. So 2014. So I mean,
Yep.
wow, a long time. So how you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah,
Do
it's a
you have
beautiful night here in Carbondale, Colorado. Terry, what are things like where you at? We got any snow yet? Or anything? Does it ever snow?
We don't get snow in Santa Cruz,
Right on.
rarely, but it's a brisk 50 degrees, probably,
Okay.
tank top and shorts weather for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm well insulated.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
So I hope that you guys had a little trip down memory lane over the past couple of weeks, as we were prepping for the show and cracking open some adventures which have not been open for a while. So we'll be just talking about those over the next 30 minutes. And so I think we should, although Harley and I have covered this a lot over the last 4 weeks leading up to this show, the 4 shows leading up to this, I think, of course, we have to start with the original. So we'll do a kind of recap of what Peril on the Purple Planet was and what it is, and so Harley, as a recap, Peril on the Purple Planet. What is
right.
all about?
Peril on the Purple Planet, our adventures are sucked through across the cosmos to a far flung planet beneath a weirdling sun, where they have to, they're pitted against these marauding hordes of Kith, and death orms that that roam the wastes as they try to find a way back home. And they're assembling these greenstone shards. They're contesting against ascended masters. They're plumbing ancient tombs, and emerging with technology that mimics magic, and then hopefully they either return home or become conquerors of the Purple Planet. But along the way, there's a whole host of adventures they can have upon this plateau, and we were so fortunate to have some really talented writers. I mean, it was a decade ago. Some of those names aren't with Goodman Games anymore, but there was a lot of writers that contributed really thoughtful work to the Purple Planet in what was DCC RPG's like nascent years, really.
Yeah, I mean, the game was just a little bit to about 2 years old at this point. That was, that was kind of weird to think about. But 2014, we were just kind of making that splash for ourselves, and this and Chain Coffin were like our first. Let's do a box set, So which we hadn't done since I guess Castle White Rock,
right,
which was before my time. So
yeah. So we ripped from like Burroughs and Robert E. Howard and and Dude and a plethora of other source texts.
Right.
And the Kickstarter was so successful that we just spawned tens of thousands of words of extra content.
This
And
is true.
in the trip down memory lane, I was going through my emails from 2014 from the Kickstarter was running, and like every other day there's an email from Joseph. Guys, we just cleared the stretch goal. The Underplanet is on.
Yeah.
Guys, we just cleared the stretch goal. We need more magic.
These were not the days when like everything's written. All we need is art and layout. No, we were like,
no.
You were feverishly typing, all right, Underworld of the Purple Planet. Like, come on, guys, what else have we discovered? That was actually really cool. That was a lot of fun.
Now we're writing stretch goals before the campaign launches. It's like
so. Right, but there's one way to recreate that, right? If we just exceed all the stretch goals we've established, we can put Harley and Terry back into feverish writing mode.
But it does speak to I don't know if you guys talked about this on our previous episode, but Harley the original. Just the original source adventure. That's 15K words. How many words is that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it's short. It's tiny.
It's like 15.
It's a
right?
DCC. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, the amount of information and inspiration packed in to that small word count is pretty astounding, because it spawned so much material. It's like if you look at the box set and you see we've got Tombs of the Ancients, we got the Purple Underplanet, we got a Bestiary, we got Tech of the Ancients, we've got all these extra supplements, and I think in the end, it ended up being 25K more words or something like that. I mean,
It was
way
massive.
more words than the original adventure. And all of it was able to be spawned by this very evocative world that was so succinctly stated.
Well, and also true that the authors were able to infer stuff, right? Like, and so you provide you guys with with this clay, and then you guys shaped it into something meaningful. It's one thing to leave a void where the judge can create something, but it's another where an author can step in and say, okay, this and this, and go so much further. I mean, the stuff Edgar, everybody else came up with was just phenomenal. Callahan, I mean, it was like a rogues gallery of some of the original DCC writers.
Yep, Daniel, Doug, Edgar,
right.
Tim.
Yeah.
Yep. And speaking of adventures, I mean, just in the Tombs of the Ancients supplement, right? There's 5 different adventures just in that supplement that happen in the Ancestor Peaks, and each of them is like, they're each one shots. I mean, each of them, that's like 5 consecutive 4-hour sessions that could be run just out of that supplement, having nothing to do with the main adventure per se, right? There's all side quests to the video gamers.
But that's the thing, though, is that this being an adventure that Harley wrote, is you have kind of you have a beginning, you have an end goal, but everything in the middle is basically a lot of just player agency and what they're going to decide to do and everything. Since it is a hex crawl, there's not like, okay, then you have to go to this place and get this giga and then go over here and do this thing or anything like it is literally a playground. So having all of you guys writing all this stuff, it wasn't so much side adventures, it was just more toys to add to the toy box.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about with what happened with Purple Planet. The same thing happened on the Chain Coffin, except it was originally like a 12,000 adventure, but then as a stretch goal, we had to get more and more. Whereas you guys were smart enough to have other people, like a whole bunch of people writing. I was writing all the stuff for the Chain Coffin stuff.
Yeah, you just can't keep Mike down. He's got
no,
more
you can't. He earned manly Mike Curtis.
Voice, but it's more of a constrained adventure. It's there is a little bit of that exploration back, but there is like kind of a beginning, middle, and the end or something.
Yeah. But I tell you, in looking over all this stuff again, I was really, and I even sent Harley a text today over lunch. I was really taken with the Underplanet. I love the Underplanet, that section of the supplements. And if I had a clone that didn't have a full-time job,
another
that
one,
clone, that clone would be
writing the Mexican singing sensation.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe I can ask him to write adventures, but anyway, I would be writing Purple Underplanet adventures. I mean, I read through there, and there's 3 different factions. There's like the Descended Masters, there's the Orm Masters, there's the Houseless, and there's all these cool evocative geographic locations, and there's the Green Flow that's sort of trying to get the planet under its control and has this weird relationship with the weirdling sun. And there's so much going on underneath the plateau that I was like, dang, I want to play this. I want to write for this
stuff we really haven't even touched on, outside of that original box set. I don't know that, you had asked this, Terry. I don't know that anybody else has written, adventures, explicitly tied to those elements.
Well, there's a zine quest coming up in February, so if
that'd be cool.
Has some ideas, right?
Yeah.
Well, Terry, you mentioned that's the thing that you would love to write, but let's focus on the thing that you did write. That we kind of because not only was there this Purple Planet which had an initial 250,000 words on it, there was also a series of digest-sized adventures that came out after that, and you were the first one to do one of those. That was the Rock Awain, if I remember. That was number 84.1. So considering like the digest size are even harder to get than the box set, why don't you remind the folks at home what the Rock Awakens was about?
Yeah, as we said, the Peril on the Purple Planet is a hex crawl, and so I think Joseph had this idea to come up with little supplemental adventures that could just be dropped into a hex on the plateau. So not every hex is accounted for in the main adventure, and so this was just a little, as you say, digest size. I think it ended up being 6,000 words or something, to just drop into a hex and play as a one shot, something that PCs would stumble onto, or there were a couple little hooks. And the idea of it was there was this thing called the Crescent Cliff, and the Crescent Cliff was this sort of cliff whose profile looked like a crescent moon. It sort of arced over, and it was this black kind of large obsidian thing. And this ruins of a city was sort of built underneath it. And I think at the time I'd been spending a fair amount of time in New Mexico, and I'd be seeing these sort of cliff dwellings with like ruins at the base of the cliff extending out, and that sort of gave me this thought. So players discover these ruins, and some weird things start happening. So when they find that whenever they cast a spell or they use an artifact or anything arcane happens, the earth starts to tremble. And they discover that there's a crazy kith whose skin is blue, and he speaks in riddles and rhymes even when he's attacking the PCs. He's like a very wiry old man, and they get some hints from him, and they discover another building where there are some sort of murals that suggest that there were two beings that came to the planet long ago before the sun was a weirdling sun, and these blue kith were everywhere, and they sort of raised up the civilization, and then something happened to the civilization. And it seems like one of these beings and one of these blue kith eloped, for lack of a better word, and took a bunch of the tribe into the ancestor peaks. And so as you go through the adventure, you come across some higher technology than Kith technology that starts attacking the PCs, and then they go into a sort of a building that is more futuristic. And by the time they get through the building, they find this 8-foot tall, sort of perfectly proportioned humanoid that's black, but his body is sort of a map of stars. And he's in stasis, and when they free him, he goes all Terminator 2 on them because he was rudely awoken. And so anyway, once they kill this guy, they discover that this rock is actually part of a ship, and that these earthquakes have been caused by tentacles of the living ship underneath the city, writhing in dismay. And so at the end, the PCs have a way to get off the purple planet, but they need a so-called navigator. And unless they were really, really careful, they killed one of the navigators, which was the dude that went Terminator 2 on them. And so then what they have to do is they have to go into the ancestor peaks and find the female navigator, who has started a race of blue navigator kith that are somewhere in the ancestral peaks, which is the follow-up adventure that I want somebody to write, is to find where they are. But anyway, as they exit the building, an eye opens in the cliff and stares at where the female navigator is, and then shuts again. And so that's kind of it. It leaves a lot of open questions and a lot of hooks.
And that's the way a good adventure should do. There should be
but it's fun. There were a couple things I incorporated that I sort of enjoyed. One was, most of you know that my background is physics, and I had been turned on to something called dry quicksand, which I had never heard of before. And dry quicksand is like there's no water involved, but it's sand that's
like really hyperfine dust, right?
Exactly, that air has passed through, and it's like a funky Jenga configuration of sand that is so perfectly configured and looks normal from the top, but man, it's like stepping on air. and things just sink in it immediately. And it used to be thought to be a myth. So there were stories from even Lawrence of Arabia's time of explorers in the desert talking about caravans all of a sudden just disappearing in the sand, or people just falling in the sand, and everyone thought it was a myth. And in the early 2000s, this dry quicksand was reproduced in the lab, and people were like, oh my god, maybe this is for real, you know. And even if you watch like Princess Bride, you know, there's a scene where Buttercup steps on dry quicksand, just go shoof, and Wesley has to jump in after. So I put dry quicksand traps in there, just because I liked it.
I mean, that's it. I mean, part of what the description of like what the Rock Awakens. I mean, if you're talking it now, and there's part of it is like he just ripped up Prometheus, and it's just like, well, this actually predates Prometheus by a number of years, you know. So it's like, you know,
Yep. But there are Prometheus, yeah, there are parallels for sure, and yeah, not between that. Another funny thing is there was, you know, I think it was one of the first Goodman Games conventions that I went to. I remember Brendan was talking about when he did adventures, he tried to have a secret shape to his map development, and he said one of the things I like to do is when I build a map, I have a secret shape that I sort of base the map off. Brendan, you probably remember this. I won't give away your secret, but I thought I'm going to try this idea. I'm going to try having like a secret shape to the map. And so if you look at the map, you'll see the Pentagon, you'll see the White House, and you'll see the Eye of Providence pyramid. So it's my ode to the federal government.
Okay. And there's something you don't often hear in, you know, elf game adventure design, right? Yeah. All right, so so that was the first of the one, and then there was two ones that came not too long after that. It might have even been the same time. I don't remember at that point, but there was 84.2 and 84.3, which were the Synthetic Swordsman of the Purple Planet and Sky Masters of the Purple Planet. And you know, I had a chance to reread these and everything, and the first one, Synthetic Swordsman of the Purple Planet, it reminded me that the Purple Planet is a mirror, and it's like what you were bringing to the mirror is what you're going to see in it. Because I think Harley, we had this discussion, I think at the very start of the show, where you know some people they look at the Purple Planet, they see it as post-apocalyptic. Some people see it as Sword and Planet. Some people see it as, you know. So there's all these different interpretations of it, and I think Synthetic Swordsman is definitely the post-apocalyptic vibe. I mean, you know, that was rereading this is like, this feels like an MCC adventure, which kind of got lost, you know.
Yeah.
Figure that.
So it's going to be interesting to see what people are doing with the Purple Planet Horde, because all the third party people are going to be creating stuff too. And you know, when it's all said and done, is what people's interpretation is going to be like. You know, how much lean into the John Carter vein, and how much lean into the Mad Max vein, or what have you. But so that, you know, that said, if that's your interpretation, if you really want to lean into the fallen, you know, civilization, you know, lost technology thing, Synthetic Swordsman is a really good way to drive that in. Sky Masters of the Purple Planet, on the other hand, feels very much more, and obviously, as you start reading it, is obviously draws a lot more from the John Carter movie, because you know the big part of it involves the floating skyships, and there's rules for, you know, aerial combat and boarding each other and turning lightning guns at each other. So it very much brings in that classic, you know, John Carter feeling to it and everything. So if you were looking for something where, you know, if you actually, even if you're not running something on the Purple Planet, you're like, I need like aerial rules for, you know, stuff. It's like there's something to build off right out of those. And you know, that one is there is the technology thing, but it feels more Purple Planet-y, you know, rather than post-apocalyptic. But so believe it or not, we're 20 minutes in the show, which means we got about 10 minutes left. So let's talk about stuff which people don't really know all about, that starting with the adventure that Harley, you have written for for the reprint, and talking of like John Carter, you know, inspirations. Why don't you talk a little bit about Chessmen of the Purple Planet?
Sure. So you know, the super quick rundown is that everyone who's watching or watches in the future needs to do themselves a favor and track down the ERB zine by Bill and Sue-Ann Hillman, and it's just a phenomenal, you know, resource for, you know, Burroughs stuff, but they have several articles on the website dedicated to Jaton, which is like Martian chess, and and it's phenomenal stuff. And so you have like you have Frederick Ekman, who is like, inferred all the rules, simply from reading Burroughs's text. You have this guy James Spratt, who like spent the last years of his life carving pieces for a Jaton board, and I mean, and the stuff's just amazing, right? And you can't really do a Purple Planet thing without like at some point addressing what's chessmen on Chessmen of Mars. All right, what's the Purple Planet variant of that? And then and I don't know if you guys think back to I'm gonna massacre the last name, but it's Dan Bouvet, who did the beautiful dragon covers of, you guys, I know you remember them, of like weird chess scenes, and like magicians leaning into one another, and like the necromantic queen is leaning in and she's sucking the life out of the white caster, and she's just like she's just turning into a skeleton before your eyes. And then another scene, there's like a brain that that's moving pieces around and probably playing against itself. Anyways, so this artist, Den, he did these amazing covers, and so you mix those two together, right? And it's like, oh wow, like let's give players and player characters the opportunity to go back in time, before the the Purple Planet collapsed, before all the cultures sank into nothingness, but like just right at the cusp of it, right, where the Kith are descending into their bestiality, but at the same time there's still these brilliant shining towers and vast marble chessboards where these death sports are played out. And so the Chessmen on the Purple Planet is my excuse to like to steal from the rules of Jaton, but also to live into some of those illustrations that I grew up with from Dragon Magazine, and really give the PCs the opportunity to go back in time, play against other Kith houses before they became dominant, in an attempt to become these warlord kings of the Purple Planet, thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the past of the current Purple Planet, so that perhaps if the PCs survive, if they manage to master Purple Planet chess, and they triumph over all the other houses, that when they go back into the current time of Purple Planet, all of a sudden they are potentially ascended masters leading these, because like the past has been transformed, right? Like they set this legacy behind them, and now they are the leaders. The adventure begins with them with the PCs being chased down by innumerable Kith, and potentially ends possibly with the PCs emerging from the past at the head of this army of innumerable Kith. It was a really fun adventure to write, and everyone go to ERB Zine and just soak in these people's love for Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really amazing.
It makes you wonder, is like, did Edgar Rice Burroughs have rules set in mind? And you're probably like,
oh no. Absolutely not. No, I can say with great authority, I am not his peer. But as a munchkin looking up at the giant that is Edgar Rice, he made all that shit up as he went. Excuse me, sorry, Lena. No. There's no rules to this. And like there's and that, which is beautiful, right? Because there's all these articles trying to reconcile it. You're like, well, what if he meant this? And what if we do this? And how can you keep Jaton still Jaton without transform? It's really cool. That's really cool. And just the level of fandom and dedication and love. I mean, this is not going anywhere. No one's going to sell Jaton, like it's just really beautiful.
Speaking of somebody who had to invent an entire dice game off of like 2 sentences in a Fritz Leiber story,
yes,
like,
exactly.
Which was incredibly freeing, though, because I didn't have to worry about anybody coming and saying, no, that's wrong, because Chessmen of Mars in the 3rd chapter, they say that, but
well, we this is our pattern, though, right? You always start, and I'll if it looks safe, I'll follow behind you, once you've established there's no traps. But it's so cool. Like I ran it at Gen Con in the Wizard Van a couple of years ago, and players really think about it. Like they take a step back, and they're like, they get into a mindset where normally I don't know. It was one of the most unusual DCC games I've ever played because they're laboring over this chessboard, trying to not a chessboard, but a Purple Planet board, trying to decide what moves they should make, and instructing one another on strategy. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It was a different sort of DCC. It was really
Yeah,
fun.
no, that's DCC. There's DCC, and then there's all the stuff that we make up and just bolt onto the chassis, and somehow the hot rod keeps running, right?
Love it. Love it.
Well, so that's the stuff that you have written, but we have yet another thing that we were including in the reprint of Return of the Purple Planet, and that is actually our German translation. The fine people over at System Matters, they have do stuff for they've translated DCC into German, and they actually have a DCC zine which they put out. I have one copy of it. I don't know if they've done more. But they did one which was called Invasion of the Purple Planet, which was I think was the first. I think it was the outside of those original 3 digest size. It was the first, Purple Planet related stuff that somebody had published for the Purple Planet, and having it's the thing that you could run before you run Peril of the Purple Planet, because it begins with the characters, quote unquote, in the prime material planet, like whatever their home world is, the non-Purple Planet thing. And then, the way it's described, it's you can tell very much the flavor of the writer, because it's really brings to mind this, a German city, I mean, especially like a medieval German city, they big towers, everything kind of like crammed in together and everything. And suddenly basically the sky tears open, and this Kith warband just like comes pouring through. They have like a floating, like a floating boat. They have a winged orm, like a winged death orm, and they're just like kind of raining hellfire down on this town. And suddenly it's like, okay, well, I guess we're being invaded today. So the heroes have to kind of like leap to the defense of this town, and there's like opportunities like to leap from tower tops onto like floating vessels, and like take the fight to them, or kind of jump on the death orm. And when all is said and done, if you're successful in driving off the Kith horde, well, there's still this big portal that you can travel through, and then that introduces you to Peril on the Purple Planet, one way or the other. So it's a fun little adventure. I think it's going to be a nice quiver in everybody's Purple Planet, nice arrow in everybody's Purple Planet quiver, like when they're kind of figuring out what they're going to do next with it, or how they want to start that campaign. So.
You had me at winged death orm.
Right?
Yeah. Right?
Say no more. I'm in.
Oh.
It reminded me of that Stephen King story, Graveyard Shift. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's basically, there's this old mill, this old textile mill in Maine, surprisingly, and there's the sub levels of it that nobody has cleaned out since like the 1800s. So like basically this one team of workers, they get hired over like Columbus Day weekend, like one of like the long weekends. They get paid overtime, but they have to go down. They have to clean out all this stuff. And as they're going further and further, they find like a trap door which hadn't been opened, to the point where like they keep seeing rats. But then to the point now there's winged rats, and they're not bats. They start running into like all these various rat forms, and things don't go well. But it's just like, hey, things with wings you don't expect.
That's awesome.
So.
Well, but Mike, so to clarify, so like, will we be able to see Terry Olson's adventure? And I wish I knew what the German writer's name is. Adventure. Yep. Will these all be compiled into the Adventures on the Purple Planet?
Will be much the same thing we did with Chain Coffin stuff. Everything which has previously existed in some format will all be kind of driven together into and included into the reprint of the Peril on the Purple Planet. So it's going to be your one-stop shop. I think we're even gonna bundle in. We discussed it, like, should we publish Chessmen as like a skinny module? But they're like, nah, we'll put everything in there. So
what's the stretch goal we need to get to Return to the Rock by Terry Olson?
I will. I mean, Return to the Rock, I don't know. We'll have to find out. So, but the original Rock will be in there. So yeah.
That's cool. I know there is one question that is probably on the minds of the original sort of Purple Planet disciples who scoured Google Plus and Facebook and eBay and put relatives up for sale to collect the complete glossography of the Purple Planet.
For the first time ever, they will all be assembled in one place, not like, not put in various, box sets that are, there's some right now, which probably Jim Scatch might have 3 of them, like, like
Right.
in the unopened, original shrink wrap, Purple Planet vodka they have. That's probably one of the reasons people can't find them all.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
that's the most serious collecting I've ever seen in the DCC community. Like
Oh.
people wanted that full glossography, and man, there'd be messages, who has number 7?
Uh-huh.
It just it was
I wish
nuts.
I knew what the mechanics because they were physically separated out into different box sets before being shrink wrapped. I mean, like, that's so cool. There was like a printer somewhere that like divided all these up. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been one of those cases where, I mean, I don't know what the process was, but like there might have been there might have been more of A printed and like
Right.
fewer of F printed or something.
Yep,
So,
yep.
so yeah, no.
So cool.
Like all collectible cards, right? It's like magic cards.
Yeah. All
So,
right. You hear that, Rick Hall? We're compiling it all.
so
Yeah.
so don't don't in the next couple of weeks, don't go overboard on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it will all be
Take mom
available.
off the auction block.
Right.
You don't need to sell her.
Right. All right. Well, believe it or not, that was a half-hour journey back to Return of the Purple Planet, and that actually will, excuse me, that will do it for us for 2023. Believe it or not, we've got the holiday season. Our wonderful producer Elena is going to take some well-deserved time off. We'll get back and just in time to have the indie RPG summit. So we will most likely return probably the middle or the end of January. That will be the return of Return to the Purple Planet. But when we come back, there will be mere weeks away from the launch of the Purple Planet campaign on Backerkit. I believe it's Backerkit. So, and it's going to be big because we're not doing it alone. So again, Terry, thank you very much for joining us in this trip down memory lane to the Purple Planet.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Great fun.
Pleasure having it. Harley, thank you again for your company as always and your mastery of all things Purple Planet. And for those of you who are watching this either live or on Memorex, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and a great new year. And we'll see you in 2024, the year of the Purple Planet.
Happy Purple Holidays.
Have a purple holidays. Bye,
See you,
everybody.
Gong Farmers.